The night was thick with an inky darkness as I climbed into my car, ready for the long drive ahead. My name is Daniel, and I had never been one to shy away from a road trip, even if it meant traveling through unfamiliar territory in the dead of night. The destination was a remote cabin nestled deep in the woods, a place I had inherited from my late uncle. He had lived a reclusive life, far removed from the hustle and bustle of the city. Now it was mine, and I was eager to escape the stresses of urban life for a while. I started the engine, and the car roared to life. The dim glow of the dashboard illuminated the interior, casting eerie shadows across the empty passenger seat. The only sound was the soft hum of the engine and the rhythmic patter of rain on the windshield. The road stretched out before me, a ribbon of asphalt disappearing into the obsidian night. There was an unsettling stillness in the air, broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl or the rustle of leaves in the breeze. As I drove deeper into the countryside, the world outside grew darker, the headlights of my car cutting through the oppressive darkness like a beacon. My mind began to wander, lost in a labyrinth of thoughts and memories. Hours passed in solitude as I made my way through winding roads and dense forests. The journey felt endless, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Shadows flitted at the edge of my vision, and strange shapes seemed to lurk just beyond the reach of my headlights. It was then that I first heard the sound, a faint, haunting melody carried on the wind. At first, I dismissed it as a trick of the imagination, a byproduct of exhaustion and isolation. But as I continued to drive, the tune grew louder and more distinct. It was a melancholic melody, played on a violin or some other stringed instrument, and it tugged at the edges of my consciousness like a long-forgotten memory. The notes were hauntingly beautiful, yet filled with an undeniable sense of sorrow and despair. I couldn't pinpoint the source of the music. It seemed to come from all directions, enveloping me in an eerie symphony. I checked the car radio, but it was silent. The melody was not a broadcast, it was something else entirely. As I rounded a bend in the road, the melody reached its crescendo, the mournful notes weaving a tapestry of unease around me. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I had to find the source. With determination and a creeping sense of dread, I veered off the road and into the darkness, following the haunting melody into the unknown. I followed the haunting melody into an unmarked dirt road that seemed to materialize out of nowhere. The darkness here was impenetrable, the overgrown trees forming a thick canopy that blocked out the moonlight. The eerie music grew louder, guiding me deeper into the labyrinthine forest. The road was uneven and filled with potholes, and I couldn't help but wonder where it would lead. Every instinct told me to turn back, but my curiosity was piqued, and I pressed on. As I continued to drive, the trees closed in around me, their gnarled branches scraping against the car. It was as if the forest itself was trying to hold me captive, to keep me from discovering the source of the haunting melody. The melody led me to a clearing, a desolate grove bathed in an eerie bluish light. At the center of the grove stood a dilapidated cabin, its timbers weathered and gray. The melody reached its haunting climax, emanating from within the cabin's decaying walls. I parked the car and cautiously approached the cabin. The air was thick with an unnatural chill, and a sense of foreboding hung heavy in the atmosphere. The cabin's windows were shattered, and the door hung ajar, inviting me to enter. The interior was a scene of utter decay. Dust-covered furniture lay in disarray, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling like ethereal curtains. But what drew my attention was the source of the haunting melody, an old violin, its strings frayed and worn, resting on a wooden chair. The violin seemed to play itself, its bow moving in ghostly, unseen hands. The notes filled the cabin with an otherworldly presence, and I felt a strange compulsion to listen, to let the music wash over me. But as the melody continued, I noticed something else, a presence in the corner of the room, obscured by the shadows. It was a figure, hunched and withered, its eyes devoid of life. It held another violin, identical to the one on the chair, and its skeletal fingers moved with unnatural grace across the strings. I watched in awe and horror as the figure played the haunting melody, its spectral eyes locked onto mine. It was as if the very soul of the cabin had taken form, its melancholic music an echo of long-forgotten memories. Without warning, the figure turned and shuffled toward the cabin's crumbling fireplace, its movements jerky and disjointed. It reached into the ashes and retrieved a tarnished locket, which it held out to me. I approached cautiously, my heart pounding in my chest, and took the locket in my trembling hand. Inside was a faded photograph of a young woman, her face filled with both innocence and sadness. The figure opened its mouth to speak, but only a guttural, inhuman sound emerged. It gestured toward the locket, then toward the violin on the chair, as if trying to convey a message. I couldn't make sense of it all, but one thing was clear. The figure wanted me to take the locket and the violin. It was a plea, a desperate attempt to communicate. With the locket and the haunting melody echoing in my mind, I left the decrepit cabin behind, my thoughts consumed by the mysteries of the desolate grove and the figure that lingered within. I returned to my car, the haunting melody still lingering in the air. The locket and the violin felt like tangible remnants of the enigmatic encounter with the figure in the cabin. What was the story behind these relics, and why had the figure led me to them? As I resumed my drive toward the remote cabin in the woods, my mind was consumed by questions. The rain had intensified, creating a hypnotic rhythm on the roof of the car, adding to the eerie ambiance of the night. The locket lay in my hand, its cool metal a stark contrast to the warmth of my palm. I examined it more closely, hoping to find some clue to its origin or significance. Inside the locket, beneath the photograph, was an inscription, words written in a language I couldn't identify. The symbols were ornate and intricate, their meaning a mystery to me. It was as if the locket held a secret, waiting to be unlocked. I couldn't shake the feeling that it was connected to the haunting melody and the figure in the cabin. The road ahead twisted and turned, leading me deeper into the heart of the forest. The rain had turned into a torrential downpour, reducing visibility to a mere few feet. I knew I had to be cautious, as the treacherous conditions could make the journey perilous. But the enigmatic locket and the haunting melody beckoned me onward, compelling me to uncover the truth hidden in the heart of the woods. My thoughts were consumed by the figure in the cabin, by the eerie music that had led me to this point. As I drove on, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Shadows seemed to dance at the periphery of my vision, and the sense of being followed grew stronger with each passing mile. Then, just as I was about to dismiss my unease as a product of exhaustion and paranoia, I saw it. A fleeting glimpse of a figure in the rearview mirror, a silhouette shrouded in darkness. My heart raced, and I stepped on the gas, determined to put distance between myself and whatever lurked in the night. But no matter how fast I drove, the figure remained in pursuit, always just beyond the reach of my headlights. As the tension in the car mounted, the haunting melody returned, its notes echoing through the stormy night. It was as if the figure was using the music to taunt me, to draw me further into the darkness. I knew I had to find answers, to uncover the truth behind the locket and the enigmatic pursuit. With a sense of determination born of desperation, I decided to turn off the main road and follow a narrow, overgrown trail that led deeper into the woods. The pursuit continued, the figure drawing closer with each passing moment. The rain fell in relentless sheets, and the forest seemed to close in around me, its ancient trees whispering secrets I couldn't decipher. And then, as I rounded a bend in the trail, I came upon a sight that sent shivers down my spine. A dilapidated cemetery, its gravestones weathered and overgrown. It was a place forgotten by time, a resting place for the forgotten souls of the past. With the figure still in pursuit and the haunting melody echoing through the cemetery, I realized that the answers to the enigma lay buried in the graves that surrounded me. The cemetery lay in eerie silence, the gravestones standing as solemn sentinels in the pouring rain. The haunting melody had grown fainter, as if the spirits of the forgotten souls buried here were now part of the mournful tune. I left the car behind and ventured into the graveyard, the locket still clutched tightly in my hand. The rain soaked through my clothes, making each step heavier, each breath more labored. The figure that had pursued me remained at the edge of my vision, a ghostly specter that refused to be ignored. As I approached the gravestones, I noticed that each one bore a name, a date of birth, and a date of death. But there was something else. Etched into the stones were the same ornate symbols I had seen inside the locket. It was as if the enigmatic language held a connection to the souls resting here. With trembling hands, I placed the locket against one of the gravestones, matching the symbols on the locket to those on the stone. As I did, a surge of energy coursed through me, and the symbols on the locket began to glow with an ethereal light. The rain intensified, turning into a torrential downpour, yet I was undeterred. It was as if the spirits of the cemetery were guiding me, urging me to unlock the secrets hidden within the locket. As the symbols on the locket glowed brighter, a vision unfolded before me, a vision of the figure that had pursued me. It was no longer a shadowy specter, but a living, breathing person. A young woman with eyes filled with sorrow. She spoke to me in a language I couldn't understand, her voice a haunting echo in the rain-soaked cemetery. It was the same language that had been etched into the gravestones, the language of the forgotten souls. With each word she spoke, the rain seemed to recede, and the world around me grew hazy and indistinct. I felt as though I was slipping through time, witnessing moments from the past, moments of joy and sorrow, of love and loss. The young woman's story unfolded before me, a tale of love torn apart by tragedy, of a promise made and a promise broken. It was a story that transcended the boundaries of life and death, a story that had brought me to this remote cemetery on a stormy night. As the vision came to an end, the locket's symbols ceased to glow, and the young woman's voice faded into the wind. I was left standing alone in the graveyard, the rain washing away the tears that had welled up in my eyes. The figure that had pursued me had vanished, its purpose seemingly fulfilled. I was left with the haunting melody echoing in my mind, the locket in my hand, and the knowledge of a love that had defied even death itself. With a heavy heart and a sense of closure, I retraced my steps to the car. The rain had begun to subside, and the world had taken on an eerie stillness. The night drive that had started with mystery and apprehension had led me to a profound and bittersweet understanding. As I resumed my journey to the remote cabin, I couldn't help but wonder about the enigmatic locket, the haunting melody, and the forgotten souls of the past. The night had brought me face to face with the unknown, and in that encounter, I had found both darkness and light. With the rain-slicked road stretching ahead and the memory of the cemetery etched into my mind, I continued my journey into the night, forever changed by the enigmatic tale of the Midnight Road. The night wore on as I continued my journey through the winding roads, leaving the forgotten cemetery behind. The haunting melody had subsided, and a deep sense of melancholy lingered in its wake. The locket, clutched tightly in my hand, felt like a connection to the past, a key to unlocking the secrets of the enigmatic figure and the lost souls of the graveyard. As I navigated the desolate roads, my thoughts were consumed by the mysteries I had encountered. The rain had dwindled to a gentle drizzle, casting a glistening sheen on the asphalt. It was as if the world had held its breath, waiting for the story to unfold. I drove deeper into the woods, guided only by the faint glow of the moonlight filtering through the trees. The road seemed to stretch on endlessly, and the dense forest closed in around me, obscuring the path ahead. And then, just when I least expected it, the haunting melody returned, a soft, ethereal hum that permeated the night. It was not the same mournful tune I had heard before, but a new melody, one filled with longing and desperation. I followed the haunting hum deeper into the forest, my heart pounding in anticipation. It led me to a secluded clearing bathed in an eerie bluish light, the same grove where I had first encountered the figure in the cabin. At the center of the clearing stood a spectral figure, a woman, her hair flowing like liquid moonlight. She held a violin, its strings vibrating in response to her delicate touch. Her eyes, filled with an unspoken sadness, met mine. Without words, she began to play, her fingers moving across the strings with grace and precision. The melody she wove was like a siren's call, drawing me closer with each haunting note. As the music filled the clearing, I realized that this was not a chance encounter. The woman, the figure in the cabin, and the lost souls of the graveyard were all connected by an unfinished melody, a melody that begged to be completed. But as the woman played, her notes began to falter, her spectral form flickering like a dying flame. She needed something from me, something I couldn't yet comprehend. And then, in a final haunting crescendo, the melody reached its zenith, and the woman vanished into the night, leaving only the echoes of her music lingering in the air. I was left standing in the moonlit grove, the enigmatic locket in my hand, and a profound sense of purpose filling my heart. The unfinished melody had become my own, and I knew that the answers to the mysteries that had haunted me were within reach. As the echoes of the unfinished melody lingered in the clearing, I was filled with an inexplicable determination to discover the truth and complete the haunting symphony that connected the past to the present. The night was far from over, and the enigmatic journey continued, beckoning me toward an unknown destiny.